Hi, I'm Arthel Neville here at New Orleans' legendary music club, Tipitina's. The film we're going to see is about a place very dear to me, my hometown, New Orleans. It was shot before Katrina and was meant to be a documentary of New Orleans' contribution to the genre of rock and roll. Of course, Katrina impacted the film like everything else in New Orleans. It also reinforced the need that the filmmakers felt to document and preserve this story. The music of New Orleans in the 50s and early 60s was magical and influential. The film illustrates how many of the basic conventions of what came to be known as rock and roll music were created right here. The story is told through the eyes of Deacon John Moore, a longtime New Orleans musician and band leader, and part of a large family of musicians, another New Orleans tradition. The Moores, my own family, the Nevilles, the Jordans, Baptiste, Boutte, Marcellus, Lasty, the list goes on. These famous families passed the musical tradition from parents to children, sibling to sibling, and on and on. Deacon John was a sideman, a rhythm guitarist on many of the seminal recordings made at Cosimo's studio. In fact, he played on my Uncle Aaron's Tell It Like It Is. So he's in a unique position to narrate this film. Pioneers like 2007 Grammy winners Irma Thomas, Cosimo Matassa, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee Dave Bartholomew, and Allen Toussaint are among the many recognizable names and faces from New Orleans featured in the film. It's a melody of music, memories, and history. And most of all, going back to New Orleans is great fun.
Well, I heard the news, band was rocking tonight. Well, I'll hold my baby tight as I can. Tonight she'll know I'm a mighty, mighty man. I heard the news, band was rocking tonight. Well, the Deacon Jones and Elder
I'm John Moore, but everybody calls me Deacon John. And this is New Orleans, where I was born and raised. I don't know why music is such a part of New Orleans, but it sure is. You can hear music in the streets. It's coming out of people's houses, in the churches, the bars, nightclubs, even at funerals.
Going back home, T9A to the land of the beautiful queens. I'm going back home to my baby. I'm going back to New Orleans.
Music is just everywhere in New Orleans. The reason why is because we have so many different kinds of people here.
I've been to Cuba, South America way. I've been to Euro, Mexico is okay. Over in France, the chicks are really fine. I get my cakes below the Mason-Dixon line. Going back
French,
home, T9A,
Spanish,
number four,
African, Caribbean,
Gonna get my baby
Asian, you name it, New Orleans has it. New Orleans is a melting pot of all cultures.
There's the cathedral. Like so many rhythm and blues singers, I started singing in the church. My mother taught me how to sing because she said I had the loudest voice when I cried of all the 13 children she had. She took me under a fig tree and cut my nails when I was an infant. And according to the Creole tradition, if you cut the baby's nails under a fig tree, the child would grow up to become a singer.
Going back home, T9A to the land of the beautiful queens. I'm going back home to my baby. I'm going back to New Orleans.
Now, New Orleans is a strange place, man. Over here in the West Bank, this is Algiers and Araby. You remember the Dixieland song, The Sheik of Araby? It was not about a sheik, and it wasn't about Arabia. It's about some cat who lived on the West Bank.
I grew up in the Marigny neighborhood with my parents and 12 brothers and sisters on just one side of a shotgun duplex. We used to sit on the stoops and sing and BS.
Well, when you think about the place that music had in our lives, you know, you have to say that it was saving grace, more or less, for a lot of things. With 13 kids and 2 adults in this little house, what, 2 rooms and a kitchen and a bathroom?
And a radio.
I got my start, listening to the Howlin' Wolf on a crystal radio because my mama used to turn the lights off, and the only way I could hear the Howlin' Wolf and Willie Mae Thornton singing Hound Dog, I had my crystal radio on.
Deke here was the one that kept everything light for us. I mean, we had childhood diseases. You imagine that with 13 kids going around to everybody sticking all that.
You get the mumps, and you get the mumps.
Everybody get the mumps. But Deke was the one who kept it light, because we could always count on him either to go through some kind of little staging type thing. Comic relief he was for us. Not just the music he gave us, but also the comic relief. He could tell jokes and have everybody falling on. He didn't even have to tell the joke. You remember this one? You could just point your finger at somebody. You. It was like a little game. We didn't have to say anything. It was an embarrassment thing.
That's right.
And
you got a spanking, and everybody go around and go, you.
Cosimo was like the only studio in town. There were a few others, but he had all the business in there because he has a proven track record of hit recordings. Cosmo out here, when Roy Brown, Shirley, and Lee, all the pioneers of rhythm and blues, Cos recorded them, and like to this day, Cos say, well, it was just easy. Say, I let the musicians do all the work, and I just I didn't have to do all anything.
So this was the famous Cosmo Studios on Governor Nichols.
Yeah, I tell you, it was a great time. The guys used to come park their car in here, and we had a room over here with the disc machine in it in the office, and over there was a little room where guys could do their arranging and writing and get their stuff together. When the war ended, the guy I was in business with, in this business, decided we'd put a store on the corner of Rampart and Domain, and it was his idea also that we put a room in the back for people to record. It fell to me to run it. I was a little bit better technically oriented than he was. And like Topsy, it just grew. From doing little personal recordings for people who wanted to say something to their grandmother on her birthday to bands that wanted to do things so they could hear themselves, to stuff that started being used for commercial records.
Everybody used to come and hang around there all the time. There was always a party going on. Different artists would come to see the other musicians record, and a lot of them thought, just by hanging around the studio, they might get a chance at, recording, or somebody might discover them, because everybody was coming around with their songs and all, listen to this, listen to that, and what you think of this, and there was a real cultural exchange of ideas between the musicians, because a lot of the music wasn't written, They'd just give you a sketch, and the musicians just made up the parts right on the spot.
Particularly Dave and in later years other people, they wrote the songs, or they brought people in who wrote the songs, who would then demonstrate it to the artist, usually just a vocal artist, or in Fat's case, a pianist and a vocal artist. And they'd sort of play with, feel like they had a grip of it, and then the band would start to work out parts. We called them head arrangements because that's really what they were. Good Rocking Tonight by Roy Brown was the first record in my experience that showed how a confluence of music genres can develop a new thing. It was blues, it was big band, it was gospel, and it had that pounding small band rhythm thing that was becoming popular. So for me, it was the first rock and roll record.
The jump blues era incorporated elements of the big band swing horn section. You know, you hear the riffs that back up the singers and the call and response thing with the riffs, like Joe Turner or Smiley Lewis. He said, la, 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 she calls me her sweet papa. And then the horns would answer them, da, 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 da.
She's got a sweet disposition. She always wear a smile. But when it comes to loving, she really puts it down. La 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 la. She calls me her sweet papa.
What you found as that kind of music grew and became commercially successful, that people like Art Roop, Specialty Records, who did Little Richard and Tutti Frutti and that kind of thing, and Lou Chudd with Imperial Records, who did Fats Domino, that they were looking for something new to do, but they also were sort of fans of the music. And this happened, most of the guys who were the independent record producers of those early years, they did it as much out of love of the music as they did out of it being a way to maybe make a living or some money. It was fun just to come to work, man, because once a week anyhow we did a chart record. People like Fats Domino and Little Richard and Irma Thomas. It was just great. When I moved J&M over here, I decided to call it Cosmos because when I was back at J&M, everybody was calling it Cosmos anyhow. The guys were doing really great music, wonderful stuff, happy stuff, spreading, and it was in spite of the tough times in society. We really enjoyed our work. We tried to make everybody else happy.
Segregation was an awful thing, man. Separate but unequal. All this joyful music we were making inside the studio, but outside was real different. We had problems just getting something to eat. And it was a wasteful thing, too. You had to have two of everything. Drinking fountains, cafes, even movie theaters. We used to sit in the upstairs balcony, and if the movie was kind of jive, well, we'd throw popcorn on the white people downstairs, and then look up in the balcony and wonder where it was coming from. And we ducked down behind the seats and be cracking up. Oh man, we would be laughing. These lovebirds. I was playing a wedding at the country club, and there were these two lovebirds sitting out on the entrance, one on each side, to greet the guests that they would arrive. And at the end of the gig, the manager of the country club said, I wonder what they're going to do with these birds. They don't have no plans for them. I guess they're coming tomorrow. And I said, well, take the birds. She said, you want those birds? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, you can take them home. You said, if they ask about them, I'll just tell them you got them, and they can come get them at your house. So I took the birds home with me. And it's been here ever since. And
Then I found out I had a pair, a male and a female, because I started seeing them laying eggs, and first thing you know, the eggs hatched, and I had two more lovebirds. I gave them to my sister for a birthday present, but they're busy making some more right now.
Just think of all of the great writers and producers we had here, man. You know, guys like Bumps Blackwell, and Ahmet Ertegun, and Jerry Wexler, Allen Toussaint, and of course the great Dave Bartholomew.
He's a writer, a producer, and a trailblazer. Please acknowledge, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Bartholomew. Take a bow, Dave. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, Dave wrote many jump tunes, but not many people know he was also a great ballad writer. And this is one of his best.
Someday you want me like I want you. Oh, I'll be gone with somebody new. Someday you will cry the way I did. You hang your head, but tears can't be hid. You walk the floor dead every night. Not a thing will be going right. Your nerves will keep you in despair. You'll be pulling out your hair. Someday you will cry the way I did. You're going to suffer the way you done for me.
How'd you come up with a song like Someday?
You know something? After being halfway successful, tunes like I Hear You Knocking, One Night With You, and Blue Monday, Smiling Lewis with the big voice, man, I thought I'd try something different, like Someday. Big band sound. I wanted to sound like Dickie Chase, who had the biggest band in town at that time. Oh man, what a band. All right.
Okay, how you doing? How you like this? A great array of international celebrities at this one table. Right. I bet you guys are talking music.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
And I know they're talking food. I know they're talking food.
It was like a place where musicians hung out. After the gig, everybody go by Dookie's and get something to eat, you know, and we'd take food home with us, you know, and Dookie would cash our checks. Like we had a check from a fraternity or something, you know, they write us checks for a gig. Everybody go by Dookie, Dookie cash your check, then you buy some food from him and take home, you know. We call it the peacemaker, because you could go home 5 o'clock in the morning, your wife wouldn't get angry if you brought her the peacemaker, like a bowl of Dookie's gumbo.
I love to cook, especially the way we cook in New Orleans. The way I'm cooking this gumbo, you put a little bit of this, a little bit of in there. Somewhat like those musicians pull their music together, you know. They can create music, improvise. We do that with food. They make good music, make people happy. I cook good food, make people happy.
The money wasn't important then, you know. We were all just young guys just having fun, you know, and the money was like secondary, you know, and we get in the studio and half the time we didn't know what we were recording. Allen, tune number one, didn't have a title yet. And we didn't know what the lyrics were, you know. We just played a track, you know, and everything Allen did, he wrote out, you know. Even the bass lines, he wrote all the bass lines out, note for note, and he had to play it his way. That's why I say he kind of patterned himself after Dave Bartholomew, because it was either his way or a highway.
I usually say that we recorded enthusiasm first, and then we checked to see whether there was talent. However, they were really talented. It's just that there was so much spirit back then. Everyone was so glad to be getting involved because aside from Dave Bartholomew being a trailblazer, because he really has always been a trailblazer here, this was a new group of people coming into being, so the enthusiasm was popping.
So I saw all the people come through his house, like Irma Thomas, Benny Spellman, Lee Dorsey, Escarita, the Showman. Man, Allen has, Betty Harris. He had just an incredible roster of artists back then. He just kept adding on more, and he was really good at judging real talent, you know, because he'd be quick to tell you, you never making this business, man, you know, and just whoosh, send you out the door, you know.
I had been a writer for a company, and I started when I was underage, the first publishing company. However, when I became of age, it was time to change companies and change the contract. I knew when we were dealing with contracts that they were going to spend a lot of time from one lawyer's desk to the next. And while they were doing that, I didn't want to sit dormant, so I assumed a pseudonym name. And there was no name I could trust more than my mother's maiden name. In case they got the writer's royalty mixed up, I wouldn't mind it going to my mother. So I used my mother's maiden name, which was Naomi Neville. And that's how that got going. And I must say, after I began using that pseudonym name, it adopted a style of its own. In fact, some songs, when I was writing them, it says, this is a Naomi Neville song, not an Allen Toussaint song. Lipstick Trace is an interesting yeah, Benny Spellman was the artist on Lipstick Traces, and the other side was a fortune teller. But Lipstick Traces came as a result of Benny's conversation with me about him singing on Mother-in-Law. He was the lower voice on Mother-in-Law. And Benny convinced Ernie Cato and myself and many others that the reason it was a hit because of his part on it. And why shouldn't I write him a song where he can use that kind of voice? So after Benny bothered me over and over for days and days, I wrote him a song that he could get the same kind of mother-in-law, don't leave me no more, Lipstick Traces. Pretty brown eyes, your wavy hair, I won't go home no more 'cause you're not there. I've got it bad like I told you before. I'm so in love, come back and leave me no more. Lipstick traces on a cigarette. Every memory lingers with me yet. I've got it bad like I told you before. I'm so in love with you, don't leave me no more. Leave me no more, don't leave me no more. Leave me no more, don't leave me no more. Leave me no more. And we're satisfied, Benny. A lot of our songs was being covered by international and national artists, especially during the time of the
British invasion, which was wonderful for folk like Dave Bartholomew and myself, because we always had writer's royalty. But many of the artists, the local artists who did the original versions, were lost in the mix.
Well, like Pat Boone, man, you know, singing Ain't That a Shame? It was a shame. But I was laughing all the way to the bank.
You broke my heart when you said we'll part. Ain't that a shame?
Sing your song.
My tears fell like rain.
The very first time I heard the song, done originally by Miss Irma Franklin, A Piece of My Heart, I knew for sure that those were the kind of songs that I wanted to sing. And I'd like to dedicate this next song to our very own wonderful Irma, Miss Irma Thomas. Didn't I make you feel like you were the only man? Didn't I give you everything that a woman possibly can? With all the love that I give you, it's never enough. I'm gonna show you, baby, that a woman can be tough. So come on, come on, come on, come on and take another little piece of my heart now, baby. Break another little bit of my heart now, honey. Have another little piece of my heart now, baby. You know you got it if it makes you feel good. Out on the street, and you know deep down in your heart that ain't right. No, you never ever hear me when I cry and I tell myself that I can't stand the pain, but when you hold me in your arms, I said it again. So come on, come on, come on, come on and take another little piece of my heart now, baby.
Titi Boutte comes from a musical family. Like a lot of musicians in New Orleans, they're out of musical families. Her sister was a singer, her mother sang, she sang, her uncle sang. You got a whole family of them that came out, as singers.
You know you got it if it makes you feel good.
When I started recording at Cos, which was late 50s, early 60s, there were a few women, backup singers, that would hang around Cos whenever they would need some backup singers in there. Basically, there weren't that many female vocalists, featured vocalists on the market when I got into the business in this area.
Irma Thomas was a brick house, man. A brick house, man. Because we didn't call it brick house back then, but Irma Thomas was a waitress in a club I played called the Pimlico Club. And Irma would be serving drinks. She'd get a little break or something. She'd say, "Can I come up and sing a song,
Writers-wise, the only one that I'm familiar with would be Dorothy LaBostre. In fact, she wrote my very first record, Don't Mess With My Man. On the same day I arrived for my audition, she was there, and she taught me the song that same day, and a couple of days later, I recorded it.
All of them were. You Can Have My Husband, Please Don't Mess With My Man was a killer song.
You could have my husband, but please don't mess with my man. Now, can you imagine a 17-year-old kid singing something like that? But I did it. I knew what I was talking about.
She came up with songs all the time, and they were a little risque. That was her background in songwriting. They were real risque. They had to clean up Tutti Frutti. I remember that. She tailor-made it for Little Rich.
Back when I was getting started, I used to come by Allen's house. Well, Allen and my first husband, well, actually, he was my second husband. They were good friends, and we used to go visit Allen at his mom's house because he was still living at home with his parents. And I used to visit them often because he used to do a lot of writing, and I had already signed on with Minute at the time. And whenever they needed a female vocalist, I was there, and I learned a lot of things with Allen and his piano in his front room by his mom's house. And even when we'd go to Cosmos, there was a piano there.
Well, I think the piano was kind of key in New Orleans records, whether you Bass Domino, Huey Smith, Allen Toussaint. It didn't matter. All of the records was basically based around piano more than others, which was based on something else. And the groove was different here, and that was because of Professor Longhair. All of them piano players and a bunch of them, James Booker, all the cats, in between takes would play Professor Longhair's Tipatina or something on the cue that let's play it more funky. So I was playing guitar in sessions. Deke, myself, Justin Adams, we was all guitar players. And if I hadn't got shot in my finger in Jacksonville, I'd probably still be a guitar player. But Booker taught me how to play organ for a gig, and that's when I started playing, professional. But I had produced records with Professor Long, played on gigs with Fess, and that he pushed me into, showed me like. me why you wanna holler when you know you won't swallow. Gone down on $1 today. That's Tipatina. You know, Professor Long had created an original New Orleans piano style. That was Tipatina, one of his signature tunes. Right now, we're gonna get Deke back out here to do another festoon for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please acknowledge the family of Roland Bird, Professor Longhair. Baby, no buts and no baby. Darling, you're driving me crazy. What have I done to you? Honey, I ain't got no money. Lately you've been acting funny. I can't do a thing with you. Every time that we go out, this is all you talk about. Things to did and things to do. What you want poor little me to do? What you wanna?
Dr. John and Marie Laveau were the king and queen of voodoo in New Orleans. Dr. John was the most feared man in New Orleans because he put a hoodoo on you, a curse on you, or something like that. So everybody, him and Marie Laveau, they were like the king and queen of voodoo, and that's where Dr. John got his name from.
Well, you've seen some of the incredible richness and diversity of the musical legacy of New Orleans. There's plenty more coming up. And stay tuned for a segment about how Hurricane Katrina affected some of the people and places you're seeing in this documentary, and how their positive attitudes, like their music, is helping them find hope and strength to make this city great again.
Dr. John was also a very great songwriter. Matter of fact, he was the one that wrote the song on the Jump Blues album.
You know it's hard to love another man's girlfriend. You can't see her when you want her. You got to see her when you can. You might be fighting a losing battle, but you're gonna have so much fun trying to win. Something like that, you know, but it was just a typical plot.
Cause you had a microphone that you kept in a box with a special gold wrapping on it. And I remember you only brought it out when the really big time singers came into the studio.
You ought to know about those hits because you played guitar on them. But I got the microphone, it was a telephone, which was a very special, very well-made microphone, best at the time. And a congregation in town bought it so that the cantor would be the best sounding cantor amongst the synagogues that they were competing against. And somebody in their congregation decided, well, maybe they shouldn't be using a microphone made by Germans. They sold it to me cheap, and I went on to use it for a lot of hits.
The technology back there was relatively simple by today's standards, but it was the musicians, writers, and artists who was making the real advancements.
The real job for me was I'd stand in the studio and listen to what was going on and go into the control room and try to repeat that, replicate that sound. I felt my job was to be transparent.
He wasn't into all that, turn this up, do this, that, and different.
He just said it and let the musicians do what they had to do, and the rest is just history.
Everybody that knows me knows I don't feel like I'm that important. What I really feel like is I was the right place at the right time, and a lot of great performers made me look good.
Well, back in the swing times, most of the tenor players, especially during that time, used to use what was called a fat boy. There's different name brands, but basically they were large-size hard rubber mouthpieces, and they produced a real round, mellow kind of sound, which was a good blend for a lot of guys on stage. This is a Link. This is one of those kind of mouthpieces. To give you an example. Just more of a round, mellow kind of sound. But later on the scene, people like Lee Allen and Ray Tyler came around, and they used a much narrower mouthpiece. Matter of fact, it was made out of stainless steel and had a smaller chamber. This is a plastic model of a metal, but it gets the same sound. But anyway, it was a lot more bite to it, a lot more projection, and they came out. The solos still stand. For example, this is one of Lee Allen's things.
That we were meant to be. Oh, feel so good. Now that you're home, come let me hug you, come let me kiss you, come let me see what I've been missing. Feel so good. Now that you're home.
I tell you, my favorite three singers came out of New Orleans after Smiley Lewis was Aaron Neville, Chuck Carbo, and Johnny Adams. They was my favorite three. And then Art Neville. So, I mean, there was guy singers. They was undoubtedly my favorites.
Yeah, there are bells in my heart, there are stars in my eyes. I'm so in love with you. Blessed be the tie that binds, what joy and ecstasy. Oh, you're the one for me. Great day, there are bells in my heart.
Chuck, I can remember when the Carbo Brothers had the best voices in town. Man, when I heard Bells in My Heart, I was just completely floored, man.
My brother Chick and I, we had a group called the Zion Harmonizers, and we would sing in the nightclubs on a Saturday night and go be like holy men on Sunday mornings in church, you know, sing. I don't think the pastor liked it when he found out what we were doing, you know.
I think New Orleans music is all connected. You can't subdivide nothing from nothing else, because church, second, funeral, parade, everything is one thing. But all of the music here is so overlapped. That's what made something special.
Oh, Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Oh, Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. Oh, Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Oh, Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want. Call him up. Call him up. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Call him up. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Call him up. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want. If you want your body healed. Tell him what you want. If you want your body healed. Tell him what you want. If you want your body healed. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want. Call him up. Call him up. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Call him. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Call him up. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Nobody but Jesus on the main line. When you need him. Tell him what you want. Call Jesus on the main line. Call him. Tell him what you want. Call him up. Call him up and tell him what you want. What you want.
But I give something for Jesus, I don't want no money.
Yeah.
Because my greater reward is in heaven.
That's right.
That's where we're going to get our reward.
You sound like a preacher, man.
Well, that's why they call me Deacon. Religion was really a strong part of my mother's life. Her salvation. My mother had 13 children, and she didn't work. So only my father was the primary breadwinner for the family. So my mother found salvation in religion, and she was a very devout Catholic. Throughout her life, she lived her religion to the letter. Matter of fact, you know, we used to say the rosary every evening at 6 o'clock. The rosary would come on the radio, and she'd gather all of us up and sit beside the radio, kneeling down and say the rosary. But, you know, I go back a long way, you know, playing in the churches. I used to pull me out of school to go sing the funerals, and I sing the weddings on the weekend. You know, Holy Week comes up, you know, we had a May procession, and I sing on Good Friday. And they'd always pick me to sing the solos, you know, like at midnight mass, because they say I had the loudest voice in the choir.
Well, you know, good R&B singers all came out of the church.
Oh,
you know,
yes,
right?
indeed, man.
So they know how it goes, you know.
That's right. They know how it goes.
And
you know.
it's a fine thing to to see that they, you know, they got their start from there.
The Rolling Stones and all the other Monkeys and all these people came. It was known as the British invasion.
Right.
They all the British group was coming here, and all of them patterned behind the black performers.
Right.
Chuck Berry.
You know, the Beatles admitted.
The Beatles, yeah, the Beatles too.
I mean, they got it from Little Richard.
Yeah, that's right.
That's free from
that's
Little
right.
Richard.
What you think
Little
about
Richard taught him all
What
that.
you think about Tom Jones?
Tom Jones too.
Well, you know, anytime you sing religious music, you know, it's really heartfelt. When you sing about God, you sing with a lot of feeling. You sing with a lot more soul and passion, and you know, when you sing about God, and it actually transfers when you sing in other forms of music like blues and rhythm and blues, all the power and the passion and the vocal and the music that you play, it's kind of transferred into other areas of music that you sing with a lot of feeling. One of these mornings,
I'm going away.
I experienced a lot of my fellow musicians and artists and entertainers who were dying at an early age, you know, and I started singing at the funeral services, you know, and it just became, you know, one thing led to another, you know, just more and more involved singing in funeral services.
Baby morning, not a noon, but I'm going to see the Father and by his side to stand. There'll be no more sorrows, no sadness, just only complete gladness. But any day, I know that I am a going home. There I shall, hallelujah, and your praises, you name it all. Any day, I know that I am a going
The whole jazz funeral came from Africa. You know, this is how they would bury the dead. You know, they have a big ceremony. They would have a slow, mournful procession with the casket and the mourners, and we'd have what they call a second line. and that would be the people in the street. And we get to the point where the hearse would take the body to the cemetery. It's called that cutting the body loose. And at that point, they would break out into a joyful celebration. The music would change, you know, and all of a sudden, everybody's partying and dancing in the street because they cut the body loose and go into the cemetery, and they'd have like a big parade or procession of mourners and revelers in the street, you know, and everybody would get out dancing in the streets, and that's why you see all of these special kind of dances that New Orleans is famous for, because New Orleans has a syncopated beat, you know, it's not everything on 2 and 4.
Second line, too? Yeah. Sure, why not? Do a little second line.
New Orleans is a crazy place. Music everywhere. Second line bands, and even in a bowling alley.
I know, Dave. I played it before, man. They have people dancing in front of you.
What?
And bowl on the side of you.
Oh, man. Well, big bands were more or less like for older people who would actually go to the nightclubs and cater to all the big bands, you know, not to name, only name a few, maybe Duke, Count Basie. You know what happened when the big band was coming to town? Man, the people would put on their best suit and their best, go out and get sophisticated to hear the big bands. But all at once, the younger generation started something different. They wanted to hear about the jump blues, and they wanted to hear about the Lindy Hop that was going on in New York City.
You know, I used to listen to records, man, with Hungry Williams,
yeah,
Smokey Johnson,
oh, yeah,
and obviously Earl Palmer.
Oh, yeah, just indeed.
And them cats used to be doing this triplet thing. Well, you know.
Do I know? Yes,
Now, I never heard that on records before. That's something that y'all brought in, or?
I think that Earl Palmer actually created the thing, and we kept it going.
What? It worked.
Thank you very much.
In the swing bands, drummers used to play 4/4 notes to the bar, straight 4. Then the music that they were doing at Cosimo, drummers like Charlie Williams, Smokey Johnson, and Earl Palmer, they started playing a syncopated beat in the bass drum. It came from the parade beats. In the swing bands, drummers used to play 1/4 note and 2/16 on the hi-hat. Then, New Orleans, these same guys started playing triplets on the hi-hat. They really changed the way people played in rock and roll music.
People are aware of their cultural heritage and they want to preserve it. And they're passing it down to their generations. You know, the kids learn it as they grow up, and then they teach their families, you know. And that's what New Orleans is all about, preserving our heritage and our traditions. And we don't want that ever to die, because if that goes away, well, nobody would come to New Orleans anymore. Mardi Gras is a fun time in New Orleans. People are all in a good mood and partying, and there's music all over. I've been playing this block party for over 25 years, and the people are always so friendly. They're all lawyers and doctors and professional people, and they just come out here and party. I've been playing gigs like this for over 40 years, since I was about 15. I still like doing it. It's been pretty good to me. When you do something that you like to do, it's not so much like work.
We can get together now and drink up some wine. All because
I've always thought it was a gift, making a living playing music, something that people love.
It is a gift, Alan. It reminds me of something that Count Basie said. An artist is as good as his last hit. And I have the experience of knowing people that have been successful and it was on high, then all of a sudden, no hits, and it's a big low. So you have to contain yourself in what you do.
Once I lived the life of a millionaire, spending my money, honey, I didn't care. Was taking my friends out for a mighty good time. And oh, I drank that good gin, champagne and wine. Oh, but just as soon as my money got low, I couldn't find no friends and I had no place to go. But if I ever get my hands on a dollar again, I'm gonna hold on till that eagle grins. 'Cause I found nobody wants you. Nobody wants you when they found out that you're down and out. When in your pocket, oh, there's not one penny. Oh man, all them good friends you thought you hadn't got any. Oh, just let you get up on your feet again. And here they all come telling you they're your long lost friends. But this I want to tell you, and about it I have no doubt. Nobody wants you. No, nobody needs you. No, no, no. Nobody wants you when you're down and out. No, I gotta say it for me this time. No, no, no. Nobody wants you, no, no, no. Nobody wants you when they found out that you're down and out. When in your pocket, there's not one penny. And all them good friends you thought you hadn't got any. Oh, just let you get up on your feet again. And here they all come telling you they're your long lost friends. But this I want to tell you, and about it I got no that nobody wants you. No, nobody needs you. No, 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 no. Nobody wants you when you're down and out.
Man, Katrina changed everything. We're in City Park. Almost all of this was underwater. We started making this film before the storm, but the storm scattered all the people in our project to the four winds. Katrina also made us realize that what we were trying to do with this film was to preserve those parts of New Orleans that make it so unique.
And it's a good thing we were trying to preserve it, because most of it is all gone now. Since the storm, I've been elected president of the Musicians Union, and our biggest job is just getting our musicians to come back home. We've been helping them get instruments and housing. Branford Marcellus and Harry Connick Jr. have been working real hard on the Habitat for Humanity Musicians Village, and it's helped a lot of people. My harmonica player, J.D. Hill, was the first musician to move into the Musicians Village, and he could not be happier. This is the Orpheum Theater, where we had our great Jump Blues concert. Man, I'll never forget that night. Even my 90-something-year-old godmother was here. Man, she really enjoyed herself.
You know it's hard to love another man's girlfriend. You can't see her when you want to. You got to see her when you can. You may be fighting a losing battle, but you have so much fun trying to win. I thought it over about what I should do, and I found out a one-way love affair just ain't good for two. You only be fighting a losing battle, baby, but you have so much fun. Yes, you will, trying to win. I watch the sun when it rises until it fades away. I have nothing but sleepless nights, and all I have is endless days. I ask my baby, or should I go away? Do you want me to leave, baby, or do you want me to stay? She said you've been fighting a losing battle, but you have so much fun. Yes, you will, trying to win. I said I watch the sun when it rises until it fades away. I have nothing but sleepless nights, and all I have is endless days. I ask my baby, or should I go away? Do you want me to leave right now, baby? Or do you want me to stay? She said you've been fighting a losing battle. She said you've been fighting, fighting a losing battle. She said you've been fighting. Oh, you've been fighting you'll be fighting. Fighting a losing battle, baby. Fighting a losing battle. Oh, fighting a losing battle. Ladies and gentlemen, we started out in New Orleans, and now we're gonna end up in New Orleans. Back home, T98 to the land of the beautiful queens. I'm going back home to my baby. I'm going back to New Orleans. Gonna see my parent, cousin, and my mom and pa. Gonna plant my feet on Rampart Street and be there for the Mardi Gras. I've been to Cuba, South America way. I've been to Euro, Mexico is okay. Over in France, the chicks are really fine. I get my thrill below the Mason-Dixon line. Going back home, C98, never more will I roam. Gonna get my taste of gumbo filet, cause New Orleans is my home. Back home, T98 to the land of the beautiful queens. I'm going back home to my baby. I'm going back to New Orleans. Gonna get me crawfish, jambalaya, red beans, and some fine chlorines. Gonna get my good loving baby right home in New Orleans. One, two, three. Well, now, baby, tell me how do you do? Ooh, Lord, baby, tell me how do you do? Well, I wanna say, baby, I really got news for you. Well, now, baby,
Well, you've been talking about your baby, but you want to be mine. Well, she feels like an engine running on a Pennsylvania line. Early in the morning, early in the morning. Ah, Lord, do it in the morning, early in the morning. I said, well, 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 oh, babe, oh, babe, oh, babe, I believe in you when you say I do. Oh, 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 oh. Yo.
Gumbo. You could say gumbo is like a song for the taste buds, like fingers on the ivories on a piano. The famous dish tickles the palate, satisfies the appetite, and nourishes the body. Well, New Orleans music is no different. It enthralls the ears, exhilarates the body, and nourishes the soul. And that is one of the reasons why it's so important to keep this city of great American traditions alive. If we all pitch in, we can do it. Thanks for watching.